Good afternoon. So, we've had policymakers, we've had indie bosses, we've had media titans, we've had content creators, and of course the Secretary of State. But what is the state of the industry? What does the future of our industry look like from the perspective of on-screen talent? Well, this is our chance to find out. Please welcome to the stage one of the UK's greatest stage and screen actors of his generation, David Tennant. Woo!
Hello.
Thank you, David.
Hello.
Thank you. Hi. Hi. Look, he doesn't really need any introduction, does he? Remarkable 35-year career.
35 years?
I think it's 35
That's
years.
my age.
That's your age. You were very young. You've been Macbeth, you've been Scrooge McDuck, you've been the serial killer Dennis Nilsson, you've been Detective Alec Hardy, Casanova, Litvinenko, the much-loved Doctor, of course, in Doctor Who, the hateful Doctor in Deadwater Fell, the villain in Thursday Murder Club, and of course you're about to star as the hero in The Hack. I mean, in the last couple of years, I think you've had hits on pretty much every broadcasting and streaming platform and across genres. You've been, of course, Lord Tony Baddingham. You've been a game show host, a podcaster, and. I mean, it's a stellar and varied career. But look, today we've been talking about the future of the industry. We've been talking about the massive disruptions in how people are viewing and what they're consuming. But what's it been like for you? I mean, when I look at those roles that you've done in the last few years, it's all looking pretty sunny. The industry is clearly in rude health, and you've had a lot of fun. Have you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, I've been very lucky and I've been very fortunate to do a variety of different things, and I've always been quite interested in novelty and trying something that I haven't tried before, and dabbling here and there, and I've been very fortunate to be able to do that and to work with different people on very different projects.
What leads your choices then, David? How do you decide? Because when that roll call, and that was just some of them, to be honest. What leads those choices? Is it I want to do something different and new, or is it? It's
a bit of that, for sure. Novelty is definitely always attractive, but usually it's a script. Usually, I mean, certainly in terms of acting work, it starts with a script and the collaborators that go with it, principally. But the script has got to be the starting point because that's the sort of raw material, and you can mess up a good script, but there's not a lot you can really. There's a limited amount of polishing you can do on a bad script. So if you get a good script and there's a great director attached as well, and there's great fellow cast members, that's when you get really excited.
And how do you inhabit all those different roles? How do you kind of take those on? I mean, there's such a variety of comedy and then really sinister depths of depravity.
No, it's just all pretending, isn't it? It's hard to. Again, it's the collective experience of the people you work with, I think. That's how something comes to the boil, really.
But you've done a lot of taking on true life characters. Does that come with an added responsibility? Does that make you think this is it is acting, but it's taking on...
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, it depends on the nature of the real life character. I mean, obviously, Richard II, there's not a lot, you're not worrying too much about what people's expectations have. Someone like Dennis Nilsson, you do have a responsibility. You have a responsibility because people have an expectation of what that man, in practical terms, looked like, possibly even sounded like, the space that he inhabited, and you've got reference material to work from, and you're also got responsibility that you're telling a story that still has real-world consequences. There are still families of victims alive. There are, so you have a responsibility to tell that story in a particular way. I've done a thing for ITV that comes out next week called The Hack, which is about the phone hacking scandal, and I play Nick Davis, who's ex of The Guardian, and that is a real human who it was the greatest resource in terms of telling that story for me, was to spend time with him and to use him as a sounding post, really. So that it's just a different way of approaching something, I suppose.
Yeah, but the variety of roles that you take on, I think, really has defined your career in so many ways. And then, of course, when COVID came, everyone else was sort of closing down, and you decided to take up your own little project. Why? Staged is what I'm referring to.
Yeah. Well, because Finn Glynn, the producer, it was his idea. He's someone I'd worked with before on very different things. And he said, he came up with an idea for what if actors were trapped in their house and they were supposed to be rehearsing a play. He came to myself and my wife Georgia with that. We got Michael Sheen and Anna Lundberg involved, and then Simon Evans wrote some great scripts, and we found that we could sort of, in a very lo-fi way, do it from our house. And by chance, I was just talking to you about this before, because most people were, I think a lot of people were finding ways to tell stories through that time. And ours was very flippant and very silly. And I think that was perhaps a gap in the market at the time. So, and we just made it on our own laptops. It wasn't particularly difficult or expensive.
But you were sort of on the cusp of that content creation just yourself. You thought, we'll just...
I suppose so, but by pure accident, really. Yeah. And it was very lo-fi and very... The first one we made, which we made on spec, just to see if we could, was much more complicated. We had laptops and phones and cameras, and actually it got much more... You saw it. It got much more lo-fi as we went on and realised that actually... Let's not pretend it's anything other than...
Just drama on Zoom,
people on Zoom,
no, it was kind of... But I guess when you came out of Staged and COVID, and Staged sort of went on, did you never think, maybe I need to produce and direct and write? And because you were sort of, okay, working with Simon and Finn, but you were doing it all. You had control.
I'd already dabbled with Des, for instance, and with Around the World in 80 Days. I'd already dabbled with being involved from a slightly earlier stage, being an executive producer. And I enjoy having a voice in those rooms, having an early look at scripts, being involved in some of the putting a production together. But I also am very aware in situations like that there are people who are better at it. There are people who have that skill set, and my skill set is sort of, pulling faces and doing a funny voice. So I've never really felt like I want to. Like I've been blessed with getting to work with great writers. So I've never thought I can write a script better than, Jack Thorne or.
Have you enjoyed the changes in our industry I guess I'm asking, has it affected the kind of work you're getting? Obviously, global streamers have come in. I mean, actually, since around that time, it's completely changed, hasn't it, the sort of work you're getting? Does that appeal to you, the fact that your work travels globally now?
Yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, why not? Absolutely. It's a different industry. There's very little you do here that doesn't have some sort of international life. Even the most sort of domestic shows, I mean, even Staged. I was in America recently, and there was somebody it seemed impossible that somebody had watched this show we made in our kitchen. And yet they have. Everything travels now. Which probably means it's harder to tell a slightly more domestic story, I suppose.
Does
Maybe
that worry
they're a bit rarer. Well,
worry you?
I mean, when a good one happens, I mean, look at Mr. Bates in the Post Office, which was an extraordinary piece of work, and I know that was quite hard to get made. That nearly didn't get made because there has to be an international angle. So there's advantages to that, but it's also, I suppose, can be quite limiting.
And how important do you see? Because you work a lot for ITV, Channel 4, the BBC, as well as the streamers. How do you make those decisions? Does it change the kind of scripts you're getting? And do you feel that public service broadcasting in this country is important to the ecology of?
I think it's hugely important because I think it sort of defines what the rules are still, doesn't it? And I think the kind of things that BBC and ITV do sort of set the standard, and. It means that often some of the streamers are occupying some of the same territory, which is probably challenging to the public service broadcasters as well, because they can do it with more money, can't they? They can do it with perhaps some more flair, but I don't think that takes away the importance of I mean, I think the BBC is still a sort of, it's still a sort of kite mark for quality.
And do you worry about that being challenged? I mean, obviously, we've just had the Secretary of State talking about her, ambition for public service.
Yeah. Well, we need to cherish it, don't we? I mean, I think we punch above our weight internationally in all the creative arts in this country because we look after them, or we have looked after them. And there's we have historically cherished the pipeline, so we've had. And I worry that isn't happening so much. I think a lot of it comes from, we come from a sort of theatrical tradition in this country.
And you certainly do, don't you?
I certainly did, yeah. I mean,
you came through rep theatre and you saw that kind of investment locally.
Yeah, because, and it was tighter when I came out of drama school in 1991 than it had been 20 years before that. There were fewer theatres even then, but even then it felt like there was a rep theatre in every major city. They had year-round programmes, which just meant there were more entry-level opportunities.
And do you see that as a mirror then in the kind of public service or local broadcasting, local stories?
I think
do you see
so.
that mirror between the arts and?
I think it's what has served us very well as a nation and has allowed us to have the kind of the different types of people telling different types of stories. I got to go to drama school because I could get a grant to go to drama school. If I was coming from where I came from now, I don't think I'd be able to go to drama school because I wouldn't be able to afford it. That, in terms of what that means for the people who are able to tell stories going forward, if you're cutting off a whole socioeconomic bracket, I don't know what that does to the stories we are able to tell. Obviously, there will always be people who find ways through, but it's much, much more difficult, which means it's more limited, which means we aren't doing the breadth of work, the quality of work that we could be doing. I think the whole sort of ecology of the arts in this country is always, each side of it is looked after. I mean, if you look at the people, who are making, Sam Mendes came through subsidised, Thea Sharrock came through subsidised theatre. Most of the actors that of my generation did on some level, whether that's a training or in a drama school or in a theatre, the less that is made locally, the less the less texture there will be to the stuff we make nationally, I think.
It's how do you kind of really grow the seeds of creativity, isn't it? Which
and it does come down to investment.
Because I was thinking the content creators we heard from earlier, which you didn't get to see, but it's all very much in an unscripted world. It's not so far. There are micro dramas, there are coming through, but it's not really become a scripted world yet.
You're right.
And I guess when we think about that pipeline for the young David Tennants coming through, the young writers coming through, where do they find their work? Does that worry you? Do you feel a responsibility?
I do worry that it's drying up. I do worry that there are less opportunities for writers, directors, actors, which is probably the sort of three areas I'm most aware of, but also production designers. There are just less places to start. Unless
there's more television being made than ever before globally, and yet there's sort of less jobs. It's an interesting...
Yeah, I mean, statistically, I don't know. Is there more TV being made than there? It feels like there's a lot less being made than there was 5 years ago.
Well, there's a lot of drama being made around the world. If you looked at the numbers, it's possibly less entry level. That's probably with the soaps, and there's probably less opportunity.
Yes.
But worrying about that next generation, I mean, I guess you have to ask ourselves then: are we, as an industry, as times are tight and there's so much disruption and things are changing, does that allow us to take enough creative risk? Do you think, from the work that you're getting offered, do you feel that people are taking creative risks, or do you feel there's a fear of taking on difficult subjects?
I feel very lucky that I'm still managing to do a range of different things, but I'm probably I'm sort of at the further end of things, and I've been very fortunate. So I think there are probably. I think it's harder to take risks, isn't it? It's harder to... risk feels scary, doesn't it? It feels scary economically, and it feels scary politically. I think people are most creative people tend to come from I don't want to generalize, but I think if your currency is empathy, which the creative arts, broadly speaking, are, you tend to be coming from a generally progressive point of view, and that's something that's being challenged. That's something that's maybe harder to stand up for these days, and that's difficult. It's difficult if you are in an industry where there isn't a lot of opportunities to kind of risk being controversial.
And putting yourself out there.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's difficult to do.
A lot of issues that are important to you have always felt important. You wanted to talk about things that matter to you. Do you feel in that crosshairs of the culture wars and the fear of speaking out? Do you think that's
it's always been a balance, because I think
you're not on social media.
I'm not on social media,
but you do speak out when it matters to you.
I do. I hope I do, and I hope I don't censor myself. But at the same time, I've always felt that that's a balance, because I'm an actor. Why should anyone listen to any opinion that I have? Because I did not decide to be a politician, so therefore, I'm not paid for my opinions. But at the same time, when you have any kind of public profile, there is an interest in them, and you can't censor yourself. But it's hard when opinions that used to feel quite safe are being challenged ever more vociferously by changes in the culture.
And therefore, young creatives coming through might feel like that's
difficult
holding them back.
Yeah. Difficult not to censor yourself when speaking your truth can feel quite spicy.
And what are your predictions then for the future of TV? Do you look at what you think where we'll be in the next 5 years? Or do you just literally live by
surely I haven't got a clue.
But where do you see things going from the changes in the last few years, which have been quite seismic? And when we talked about 10 years ago, when Broadchurch was a massive hit, Grace Point was made, and that would be unimaginable now. You'd make an American version of a hit here.
Yes.
So the world's changing very fast. The creative kind of ecology is changing. We're in a global world. Where do you see that going? Where do you see that affecting?
I suppose there's the democratization of that, isn't there?
Yeah, which is exciting.
There's the fact that, as some of the people we had earlier, you can make something in your bedroom and it's international seconds later, which is a very different world. We made Broadchurch and then we did an American version.
It's funny.
And that was at a funny point.
Yeah.
Because maybe the world had already gone. Maybe everything was already international, but it felt then that there was still a world. There were still different continents who received things slightly differently. I don't know. But as you say, you wouldn't probably do that now, because something you make here is round the world in an instant, and where does that end? I don't know.
Do you worry about AI? Does that?
Oh, terrified about it.
You?
Of course.
Are you excited about what AI can do? I mean, creatively,
I'm sure there will be very exciting things that will happen. I'm sure there will be very chilling things that will happen. I can't see a world where it doesn't mean there are fewer people working in our industry. That just seems horribly inevitable. And that doesn't help the pipeline of creatives. It makes it presumably even harder to get going, to find a space for yourself. I mean, I'd love to think we'll be good at carving out legislation and that we'll be great at copyright laws, but history would indicate that perhaps we won't.
There's part of AI, isn't there, where I remember coming to visit on the Doctor Who set and the volume stage and the kind of, we were creating a whole spaceship where we'd have to have built it 10 years ago. So there's a lot of kind of extraordinary things that AI can do. It's the sort of, but the generative AI thing is obviously really challenging for anybody who's
I don't know enough about it to know where it ends.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm scared to ask it anything.
Yeah.
I've got it in my head that every time it does something, a tree burns down. So but which probably means I'm the last person to ask about what it can do. I've used it once to ask it what to do with some Brussels sprouts. That's it. But I'm aware that it's inevitably these things they're unstoppable, aren't they?
What about your own family and kids? You've got young kids, spanning, teen years. Do you look at what they're watching and think, this is a whole other world?
It's different. It's definitely different. I mean, the youngest ones have no concept of anything outside YouTube, as far as I can tell. As the other ones, as they've grown older, they've discovered more traditional drama. They've got no sense that there's a television schedule, though. The idea that television listings exist, I mean, they are minutes away from being obsolete, it would seem, if you look at the younger generations. And then I think, well, when was the last time I tuned into anything live? I mean, other than sort of big events, it's just not, it's different.
And yet there's something, isn't there, as a family getting together around the telly, which is an extraordinary moment.
Yeah.
A big event telly moment,
Yeah.
whether it's drama or whether it's Eurovision.
Yes, but as often that's, oh, we can now download that movie, guys, let's have a movie night, which I suppose is sort of the same thing in a different world, isn't it? You know? You create those moments for yourself rather than having them nationally, maybe. I don't know. I'm cheered by the fact that the 12-year-old, the 14-year-old, they've now discovered shows that they love. They don't tune into them at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday because, although they do, The Summer I Turned Pretty's got a big finale coming up.
There you go.
It's in the family diary.
Yeah.
So Appointment to View does still exist.
Yeah.
I was like, what is TSIP finally? What does that mean? So there are still those moments, and they can still, you know, the storytelling does still connect and is still important. And so maybe for all it changes, it stays the same. It just finds new ways of doing the same thing.
But, you know, your son's becoming, he's an actor. He's
I have 3 of them are acting.
You've got 3 of them are
Oh, yeah.
acting. So do you... but you know, it's not just worrying about where will you be in 10 years, it's where will they be?
Well, it's who's going to pay for me to go into a lovely home?
Who's going to pay for you?
Yeah. No, I mean, so far they're all doing very well, so great. I mean, it's a wonderful life, and working in the creative industries is glorious and wonderful and can be really hard work, but can be hugely gratifying. So I want it to be able to work out for them, but I don't know what that terrain is.
Because there's no through from the theatre to the TV is kind
which
of
is
tough.
Yes, the sort of the pipeline, the conveyor belt, as I understand it, doesn't exist anymore.
So talking to all these people in the room here who all are in the media industry, you know, worrying at the moment about where do we grow from here, what would you be saying to them?
I don't know what you do, but I so thanks very much.
Yeah.
But it does seem to be about an investment, whether that's money or whether that's an investment of skills. It's about sort of investing for the future, isn't it? It's about what that pipeline is, and if it's not going to be getting to do a play at the Brunton Theatre, Musselburgh, and learning there, then where is it? Where do you get your first opportunities? Where do you learn? Where do you get to fuck up so that you can get better and do it next time? Where does that playwright get to put on their first pieces of work? I don't know what that is, but that's what we've got to figure out. That's what we've got to invest in. That's what, you know, and this government have been great about talking about how they recognise that and how they cherish the arts, but we don't have any new money for it just yet. And I get it, because we need to build hospitals and we need to look after the education system. But unless we're investing more money now, we're not going to have it in 10 years' time. It is precarious. And unless you water the roots, I don't know, you know, I don't know where the next Sam Mendes comes from, or the next Peter Morgan, or the next Jack Thorne, or, you know, because all these people got to, you know,
got to get there,
got to try it out.
Yeah. I mean, I think when we were listening to the content creators, there's definitely extraordinary creativity from the young generation coming through.
But it's a slightly different skill set, isn't it? And it's not. It's one that I admire and I'm in awe of. But being able to create your own stuff and make your own stuff in that sort of all-round way is one thing. But being an interpreter of something, or being someone who writes something and gives it to other people to interpret, it's a different kind of cherishing, and we just have to be. We have to make sure we're giving people a chance now, so that in 20 years' time they can be, you know, whoever it is, Peter Morgan, Russell T Davies, Stephen Moffat, Thea Sharrock, Laura Wade. You know, we need to give those people somewhere to come from. I
think everyone in this room would absolutely agree. Thank you very, very much, David.
Thank you.
Fantastic to have you here.